Welcome. For tonight's interview, we have Jack Richard Sobel. He is a lead singer and guitarist for Black Swan Lane. Black Swan Lane is a UK US indie band founded in 2007 by Jack, John Colbeck, formerly of the Messengers, along with Mark Burgess, formerly of the Chameleons, the Sun and the Moon, and the Bird. Black Swan Lane recently released their ninth album, Hide and View. I posted a review, which will be included in a post on the final draft for this interview. And I also reviewed BSL's last album, Vita Eterna, which I will also include in that same link. Welcome to the interview, Jack, for Progressive Rock Central. Thank you, Jack, for taking time out of your busy day to talk with us about all things Black Swan Lane.
I appreciate the invite, Mark. Thank you.
I'm sure you've been asked this question probably many times, but how did you create the band name Black Swan Lane?
You want the short answer or long answer?
It's up to you. Absolutely up to you.
It's a bit convoluted because years ago when we were the Messengers, it was John Colbeck, myself, and another guy named James Ferry from Augusta, Georgia. We and then later on, we continued as the Messengers, and but during the course of the Messengers, we recorded an album called Queen Today, which was produced by Scott Weiland of Stone Temple Pilots. And,
oh yeah.
And during that time, he was trying to get me to rename the band, and he wrote at the top of the sheet when on some production notes for the album, he put, we need a 3-name title like STP, and he wrote Big Time Elisa, and I didn't like that. But as the Messengers continued, and then when we hooked up with Mark Burgess, and he's actually on the last Messengers album called Abundant Sunshine, we noticed a lot of other bands that were called the Messengers, and we noticed there was a movie coming out called The Messengers, and it was just time to kind of reinvent the wheel. And coming up with names is really not the easiest thing these days, because everything's been done, and everything, you come up with something, you look it up on the internet, and it's been done. So
yeah, it's got to be hard.
And then there's conversations between myself and other band members, and no one can agree on anything. So long story short, I moved out of the center of Atlanta and the city to the suburbs when my child needed a good public school and a safer neighborhood, and we were just at the time surrounded by a lot of crime and home invasions and whatnot.
Wow.
Sirens and gunshots at night. And so I decided to move out about 30 miles out from Atlanta. And we found a house on a street called Black Swan Lane.
Wow.
But we, unfortunately, because of our realtor, he didn't put the offer in right away, and we lost the house, and we moved into another. We found a house that was really not in our price point, but we were kind of desperate to move, and it was in a subdivision called the Aviary. And when I looked up, I like that name, the Aviary. When I looked that up on the internet, the first thing appeared on the screen was a black swan. And I was like, well, that's kind of fate. So
yeah,
I introduced everybody to Black Swan Lane, and it was a 3, BSL. And so that's kind of how it happened. And then we included Black Swan Lane initially was kind of an experiment when I got to actually play drums for Mark Burgess, and do some Chameleon songs during a show. And while he was here, along with another member, there was a member of the Chameleons named Kwasi Asante who recorded with them for a short time period and played with
Yeah.
them on their final tour. And he was just really just the nicest guy. He was from Ghana, and he did percussion and did some vocals on a couple songs. So we included him as well. And while we were in town rehearsing, we're like, well, why don't we start recording some songs? And at that time, we really didn't have a great studio setup, and I can get to that later, how everything kind of transpired from music to a whole other career back to now music again. But the first couple albums, the first album was with Kwasi and Mark Burgess, and while we were rehearsing, we recorded all these songs and in a very short period of time. And Black Swan Lane started, and I kind of thought, well, it was kind of a one-off thing, and one of the songs actually got put in a movie called Adventureland.
Oh, all right. I had that as another question, but go for it.
Which was a major motion picture, and we actually kind of got put on the map, and a lot of it had to do with our connection to Mark Burgess with the Chameleons, and we kept going with it. So that's kind of the story of how that transpired.
All right, yeah, that was. I'm trying to look for my notes here. Jesse Eisenberg and Kristen Stewart.
Yeah. And,
from 2009. I can't remember if I ever saw it, but I'm going to definitely try to.
It was a song called "In the Ether," which actually we took turns singing songs on the first album, Mark and I, and I wrote the music and played. I remember vividly sitting on the couch strumming on the 12 string, and Mark started singing along to it, and he said "In the Ether," and I didn't know what the hell ether. I guess it's ether.
That's what I always thought.
But
that's maybe how they say it in England.
He was saying "in the other," and I don't know what it meant, but I went with it. we recorded it, and I think the guys from YOLO Tango were responsible for putting the song in the movie. So I actually just talked to Mark yesterday and sent him some royalties from. We're still getting residual stuff from that movie.
Good.
So,
well, you and I, we met when I reviewed your last album, Vita Eterna. I found out about it through, I think, a posting Dave Fielding's probably on the Chameleons Facebook site, because I didn't know who you were.
Right.
Black Swan Lane, and he was discussing his performance on Vita Eterna. Definitely, I'm a huge Chameleons fan from way back in the 80s.
Me too.
You're also a member of the Sun and the Moon with members of the Chameleons. What was it like working with Mark Burgess, Dave Fielding, Andy Clegg? And you've already talked about Kwasi. That's right.
I had a blast. I wish I could go backwards, and I wish we had the facility. Now we have a really great studio in the other room, and I wish we had that back then and I wish we had more time together to record things properly, because there's some terrific songs. It's just the quality of the recordings. I wish we could go backwards and redo that. There's still some great songs on there, which people are still, buying and listening to. But
Good.
the
Good.
the quality of stuff really started on the third album when um, we still didn't have our own studio yet, but we were taking our recordings to another studio. Um, and I know I'm getting off track here, but I'll get back to recording with the guys. But the third album, Things You Know and Love, is really what we nailed the sound for Black Swan Lane. And that's when we started working with the engineer and mixer Jeff Tomei, who did the first Smashing Pumpkins album, and
No. Wow.
he's done Alice in Chains, and he did Sixpence None the Richer, and just a lot of great bands, and had a great studio about 15 miles away from us in Kennesaw, Georgia. And he actually works out of the home of Jesse James Dupree, who's in the band Jackal, which is the complete opposite of pretty much what we do. But I remember that Jesse walked into the studio, and while we were doing Things You Know and Love, and on that, the title song, and Things You Know and Love has a lot of meaning to it, because it's a conversation that Mark Burgess and I had, a very meaningful conversation when he was probably moving on from Black Swan Lane and starting Chameleon's Vox, and he was confiding in me a lot of things that were affecting him and bothering him. And one of the phrases he used was, the things you know and love. And that stuck with me. And that was the last album he did with us. And he was on, he did a few things on that album. But anyway, going backwards, I didn't finish my thought. I'm sorry. Jesse walked in and was hearing this song, Things You Know and Love, which still had some strength to it, but was obviously something that he wasn't accustomed to. But he got on a microphone and added an Indian chant vocal in the background at the end of the song. So he's actually on that CD. Jesse James from Jackal. But anyway,
Cool.
That's just a little trivia, which
No,
nobody
that's
knows.
good.
But going to the first album was just me, John Colbeck. It was when Mark was traveling with the band Bird as well. So we happened to have Eve Altana in town, along with their drummer from Germany, he was phenomenal. And Eve played on the album, and we wound up having, later down the road, he did an interview and said, and this is a bit controversial, but he dismissed the entire project and said he didn't even know he was being recorded, and which was complete and utter bullshit, because you're literally recording in a studio.
Yeah.
And he was on some of the songs, and I actually paid him to be on the song. So while they were in town and they were on tour and they were having some hard times, I threw them some money to finish some of the recordings up on the first album. So, but everything went well. And then the second album, we recorded the Sun and the Moon Sessions, and we named it that because at the time, John Lever, who became just one of my really, really good friends, and I miss him dearly, and may he rest in peace. At the time we did the Sun and the Moon Sessions, he wasn't doing well with his health. And I was tasked with playing drums as the Sun and the Moon. So we did a one-off show in Atlanta at a larger venue, and people traveled in from everywhere to see it. So it was Mark Berg. It was the original lineup except for John Lever, and I played drums, which is
excellent.
It's the instrument that I started playing when I was a kid, and through high school and through college, and I played drums, all the time. And I switched from drums to singer and guitarist, but drums were second nature back then, and now it's when you start reaching your 30s and 40s, when we did this album and did these sessions, it's quite strenuous to try and pull off what John Lever can do on drums. So while we were preparing for that show and rehearsing, we had again Mark and Andy Clegg and one of Mark's friends, James, Jimmy from San Francisco, who toured with him when Mark was touring solo. He opened for us, so he's actually on the album as well. James Oakes, Jimmy Oakes, and Andy Clegg and Andy Whitaker, the two of them together, it's just, I can't explain. I mean, they just make you smile like right off the bat. I mean, the chemistry, and I'm with you on when I first heard Swamp Thing, and when I was in high school in the 80s, that was the first song I heard, and I was like, I'd been listening to the Smiths and Joy Division and Bauhaus and the regular stuff. And I was really into alternative music and some punk and some post-punk. But a friend of mine, while I was in a band with, I was playing drums for, put the vinyl on before band practice. And he was normally playing things like Fields of the Nephilim and Red Lorry, Yellow Lorry, and much harder stuff. And this time he put on the Chameleons record. He's like, "Have you ever heard these guys?" And he put Swamp Thing on. I was like, "Holy shit!" And that sound, like, from that point on, it was like they were my favorite band. And the guy who introduced me to him, we've talked recently, and he still can't believe, like, I can't believe you freaking played with him now.
Played with him, yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, the Chameleons, and then when I found, there's parts of the Sun and the Moon album that I almost like better than the Chameleons at times. It's just so, I always tell people it's really, really hard to come up with lyrics that are intellectually stimulating rather than just, girl, baby,
you do
all the crap that. So I also spend a lot of time trying to, go for, it is, some of it's dark, and but I always think of the Sun and the Moon and the words and the lyrics and the genius behind that stuff, and in addition to the genius of the Chameleons with Dave Fielding and Reg on those guitars. I mean, it's just it's an abomination that they didn't get bigger than they were at the time. And I could name a million other. I mean, I've had conversations with Rob Dickinson of Catherine Wheel when he was at my house about, their experience with record companies. And it's just unfortunate, all the crap gets up to the top, and then all the incredible great stuff is just this cult following. And it's like Black Swan Lane as well. But working with the Sun and the Moon was probably the most fun.
Sounds like it, yeah.
The first album with Quasi around and being from Ghana, and I can't give away too much inside information, but there was a lot of smoke flying around, and we did a song that I probably regret doing. I, there's a we got a the expletive mark on the first album, and we thought it was just going to be an anthem in every stadium, and we were laughing our heads off. And looking back, I'm like, I probably shouldn't have put that song on the album. But anyway, it was fun too, and Quasi was just wonderful to be with. And at that time back then, Mark and I were like great friends, best buddies. Really had a great time together. And again, the second album with the Andes. I don't know that Mark was too into the whole Sun and the Moon concert thing. And I think he was going through a bit of depression at the time. So I think we were all hoping for a little bit more during that period. But the Andes, really, really fun guys. And at the time they were doing a radio show called the Midlife Dementia Show. I don't know if you ever heard it, but it was hilarious. I don't know if it's on YouTube or whatever, but
I'll have to check it out. Yeah.
They were just a riot, and they still are. I mean, the chemistry, and to this day, I mean, again, I'm still very close to both of them. And Andy Whitaker, I just did. I don't know if this should be made public or not, but this will be a world premiere. I wrote a song for a movie coming out from Andy Whitaker.
Oh, great!
And his buddy Colin, called "Verging on God," and I wrote the song "Verging on God," and I had intended to put it on the new album, and at the end of the day, I made the hard decision to say I'm just going to let it go for their movie. And I had the songs that I really liked and wanted for my new album, and I said, screw it, I'm going to cut it. So every album we have probably 5 to 10 or more cuts there. And then a lot of times, like the song "Happy" on the last album, which is people either love or hate. There's a lot of Black Swan Lane songs everybody just loves. And then
hold on. Let me just mention that that was going to be my next question. When I first heard and saw the video for The Prisoner off Vita Eterna, I was mesmerized by the sound of music, David's guitar, his voice. And I've said it in a couple of my reviews. And I'm just wondering, does anyone else notice the similarities between you and Jim Morrison and the Doors? Because I think "Happy" is almost like a Doors song. I'm telling you, it really.
There's some songs that I don't know how to explain it.
You got to be a fan, though. You're a fan of the Doors, right?
Yeah. I mean, even in high school, I mean, even along with the goth stuff I used to listen to, and post-punk stuff and alternative stuff, I'm a huge fan of the Doors and the Beatles. And people who say they hate the Beatles or the Doors or the Stones, I don't know. I mean,
they set the course for everyone.
I mean, exactly. So I have
everyone stands on their shoulders. I mean,
I have a big appreciation, and I used to be a hard rock fan. I mean, before I listened to the Smiths and alternative stuff and the Chameleons and stuff like that, I was heavy into Led Zeppelin and the Doors and Black Sabbath, and I got to meet Iron Maiden and go to backstage to their concert when I was 12 or 13 years old. So I was kind of a AC/DC Iron Maiden headbanger back then.
Headbanger, yeah.
You used to get all the autographs, and when I was a drummer and always just idolized these guys and wanted to be a musician.
Yeah.
But again, I think the turning point really was, and what our sound comes from our third album on, um, was hearing Swamp Thing that one day with this kid Jason, who was the bass player in our band, and they became my favorite band of all time.
Yeah.
And I don't try and copy or emulate them. It's just
No.
it's what comes out of me. What you were saying about my vocals, I think, there's like on the new album, there's a song called Little Bird,
Yeah.
which is, it was totally different when I first sang it. It was, again, I sang it very mellow and melancholy. And then I heard not only myself in the back of my head, but my old bandmate John saying, go for it. And I went for it on the chorus. And I'm not really, I have to say, I still consider myself a drummer. I don't,
You're a heck of a vocalist, so
yeah, people who are like, oh, I love your voice. And I'm like, when I first started singing, it was out of necessity because I had a female singer and we also dated, and she ditched me. And I was like, well, I want to keep going, kind of like what I'm doing now. But the Messengers, I wanted to keep it going. So I started singing, and I was god awful. I mean, I was just terrible. I was trying to emulate, British singers, and I didn't have a voice back then. So maybe it's the amount of cigarettes, I don't know what, but my voice has gotten better over time. Mostly through practice and through recording and through, but I don't believe in auto tune or drum machines or any of that bullshit. So whatever happens. But on like Little Bird, I went for the chorus, and it really just made the song. And then on the last album, what you were talking about with Happy, one of the first comments from a huge fan was, "This is the worst song on the album," and it's one of my favorites.
It's one of the best, yeah.
And it the people want to compare to everything. They're like, well, it sounds like, I don't remember, them Crooked Vultures. It sounds like The Cure. It sounds like this. You sound like this. It's just what, John Colbeck and I did on that song. And we actually did that song for our third album, Things You Know and Love.
Wow.
And the recording, and it didn't fit. And we all love that song, but we were scared to put it on the album back then. And then the fourth album came along, same thing. We're like, well, what about Happy? It doesn't fit. This album's really pretty. Staring Down the Path of Sound, which we did the tour with. And then the fifth album came out, and it didn't fit. And the sixth album, it should have been on the sixth album, but we still wimped out and didn't put it on. And same thing with 7, and then 8 came out, and I said, it's time, and I want to start doing what I want to do, and I don't care what other people think. And through this whole process, I still, to a degree, care about what our fans think and what people are going to think about it. And is this too much, or is this too different than what we normally do? And but I think it's a hell of it's a great song, and it had to be remixed entirely, because the original mix, just since we did it so long ago, it just disappeared. So we had to really redo it. And
it's sharp. It's really
the Vita Eterna album you've talked about, that was the first time I worked with a lyricist poet named Alessandro Alex from Italy. who now lives in Manchester. And I was kind of at the point, I want to do an album, and I had really run out of. I had all these music ideas, but I ran out of words, and he was writing me these poems. And I had done a song once before with a guy named Ian Ottaway, who was also working for Black Rebel Motorcycle Club,
Yeah.
who did some lyrics on Under My Fallen Sky for a song called Golden Black. So that was one song. So, but then for the last album, I think about 80% of the songs, he would write me some poetry and I would take it. And a lot of it had to be completely torn apart, put back together. And I would have to add, it wasn't in a song format, it wasn't put together properly. So I would make it the verse and the chorus and the bridge, and then I would add some stuff and delete some stuff, or I would take phrases from 10 different things.
Uh-huh.
So I gave so that was the first, but on this album I did all of the words and lyrics, and I kind of forced myself to do it. And I'm somebody who does the music first and does the words after, which is not typically the norm. A lot of people will, do it simultaneously, or write words and then put music to the words. Well, I'm more musically oriented, where I want to hear that loop and riff, and I want the guitar. I'm just more into the music than the vocals and the words, and that's what really inspires me and gets,
Okay.
and that's why the endings to all our songs, just I want them to like put you in a trance.
Mm-hmm.
We have these long, big endings to the songs that that has you'll hear the vocals just kind of fade into the distance, and the music keeps going.
Music continues. Yeah. You introduced me to Chrissy Vanderwood. She's excellent, from Churchill Gardens and Whimsical, and I went on to review one of her albums. I'm hoping she'll send me her new one when that's done. Unbelievable. She really sounds good on.
She's also one of the sweetest people I've ever met. I just love genuinely nice people, and
yeah.
That was the first time we did something from a distance,
Mm-hmm.
and had her record at her place and then send tracks over, and I would put the tracks into the mix and mix it in. And that was the first time I'd ever done that. I've always had, the Lauren Fay, who was, who ironically I talked about earlier from the Messengers, who broke my heart. She came back, and her voice, I just had really, I think on Staring Down the Path of Sound was when she came back on that fourth album. And I just kept hearing her. She has this unique quality about her, Lauren, that it was Cocktail Twins, Ex Mal Deutschland, Dead Can Dance. Back then, I mean, I was just astounded at the quality of her voice. So we kind of reconnected, and I said, bygones, and and she started singing with us, and I honestly, I think Alex who worked on lyrics with us on Vita Eterna, he made the connection for Chrissy And then with Dave Fielding, I mean, Dave, I had met once when they were touring the States, and I got to go to both shows, and that's a entirely that's the story about how this whole thing happened. And it's kind of, I guess it's kind of important to talk about, because when they first came around, and I don't know if you want me to talk about that now or later.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
But being a huge Chameleons fan, I had actually quit playing music. I had just become really upset with it, and we had deals with we had a deal fall apart in Nashville with Warner Brothers, and then we had a deal fall apart with MCA Universal, and these are things where they're like, "Oh, this is magic. You're gonna get signed. Give us all your stuff," and then
nothing. Terrible.
Things are happening, and then nothing, and then you start hearing things on the radio that are like, "I think I wrote that."
Oh,
like what?
They
like
stole
what happened? But anyway, so I went. I was kind of just doing it as a hobby at that point, after touring the entire Southeast constantly with bands, and playing all the time, and it just seemed like, if I want a nice car, or if I want a big TV, I got to start working. So I went into the restaurant business, and one of the servers came up to me one day and said, "Hey, the Chameleons UK are coming into town." And I was like, "You don't know what you're talking about." And this was their big final tour. And I said, "No, it has to be like the Charlatans, or it's got to be, you're mistaken." So I look at the newspaper, this Creative Love thing, and the Chameleons UK are coming. So I reached out to some friends of mine, and they reached out to some other friends. And now I have a lifelong friend who made this Chameleons connection here in Atlanta, named Chris. And I said, "Bring the whole band in for dinner. I'll buy dinner. I just want to have dinner with them. And I would love to meet them." And we had an incredible dinner. I got to talk to Mark. I met the band. They invited me to their show. I gave them some CDs by the Messengers, and shows were great. I thought I'd just keep working in a restaurant. Never thought I'd see him again. And some time goes by. The Chameleons break up again, as they always do. And I got a call that said, "Do you want to open for Mark Burgess and Jimmy Oakes as the Messengers?" And at this time, I'm working like 70 hours a week, and
oh goodness.
It was still, I was still great friends with John Colbeck, but we didn't really have a band anymore. But when I got the call, I said, "Yeah, we'll do it."
No, yeah.
I didn't know how we were going to do it.
Sometimes you just jump in.
Yeah, but so
you never turned that down.
I called John up, and he was a huge fan too, John Colbeck in Augusta. And he said, I said, "Dude, I'll play the tambourine. I don't care what I do," because I was singing and playing guitar, but we didn't have a drum. So I said, "I'll play drums. You sing, try and sing like me, play guitar." And he's the best. I mean, he's like Johnny Marr. John Colbeck in Augusta is the best guitarist I've ever heard in my life. Hands down. I mean, he can play anything, do anything. And the last, album without him, I missed him, but we'll get to that later. So anyway, he got a buddy of his to play bass, and we did a 3-piece, and we played some original songs from our album, Queen Today, and then we did we threw in a few cover songs to fill the gaps. We played Radiohead and the Smiths,
Oh,
um, and then um, Mark actually sat in the front row and watched our entire set, and I was just astounded because most of the time, the opening act, the main act is in the dressing room doing their thing or
relaxing.
getting drunk, whatever. And he watched our entire show and complimented us, and he was just very nice. And so I was watching his set, and my drums were still set up, and he said, Jack, would you like to come up and play a song with us? And I'm just like, this is fucking crazy. I can't believe this is all happening, like, and I was still, I mean, this is a long time ago. This is before Black Swan Lane ever even the thought ever occurred.
Yeah.
And I was just blown away. It was like every kid's dream. It was like, when whatever band you like, your favorite band calls you up to play. And it was a song that I loved called Happy New Life. And I knew I could play the drums to that. So that was great. And again, I thought, okay, well, this is it. I'll never see him again. And that wasn't actually the case. We kept in touch and did some more stuff, but and then Mark invited us to tour with Chameleon's Vox, which happened after our third album, Things You Know and Love. And during this time period, John Colbeck and I were so impressed with how Things You Know and Love turned out that we were really working on much better material than we've ever done, and did Staring Down the Path of Sound. And so Mark, we got another call, and he said, you want to go on a month-long tour on a tour bus with 10 British guys? And we said, yeah, we'll do it. And
yeah, you don't turn those down.
I saw a picture today on Facebook. I think Chris Oliver and Steven, we call him Foxy, Stephen Foxcroft, posted the tour bus we were pushing in the snow. I don't know if you saw that.
Not yet. No, I've been gone all day.
It's on our blog as well, but it's hilarious. I'm the guy who actually jumped out of the tour bus and ran for help while the British invasion were trying to push a full-blown tour bus, which is impossible, in the snow, that's trying to roll backwards down a hill in Wyoming. So
oh my goodness,
it was hilarious. But yeah, so we did the tour with them, and that's when things got a little funky at the end of the tour. And it was a lot of fun, a lot of great memories, some great shows, some great stuff came out of it. But there were a lot of issues and a lot of problems. And when you spend that much time, I could tell you a million stories about being on the tour bus, but the saving grace was, I think, my relationship with John Lever during that time period, and waking up and having coffee with him and talking. He was an avid collector of coins, and talking to him about that, and wasting a lot of time with John Lever and hanging out with him, and having him who getting to play with us on drums was just amazing as well. So a lot of amazing things happened. And during that time, he was really healthy, wasn't drinking. And
the good times.
I think the breakup with Chameleon's Vox, and I don't know the details. I don't know the whole story. I don't know what happened. I don't know the animosity, but things just went downhill with his health and with everybody else.
Yeah.
And he wound up passing away. And right
Yeah.
before he did, he had sent me his only copy of the script of the bridge vinyl and on CD, the re-release, and wrote me some nice notes. And he really wanted to come back and play live again with Black Swan Lane, and it never happened. So
that that was the album that brought me to him, Script from the Bridge, and it was weird because I was right around the same time a Marillion fan, and Marillion had Script of a Jester's Tear, and I thought, well, maybe this is similar to it because I had never heard them before. Picked it up, let's give it a try. Took it home, I was like, wow.
yeah.
Forget about Marillion. This is where we need to go. But yeah, excellent. That is a fantastic album, as all of them. I just want to ask you on your album, you played Tears, which was completely different than the Chameleons. Tears is probably my favorite song off any of the. I mean, Strange Times, but of the.
That song was also recorded for the third album and I thought it was a little, totally different. I mean, there's so many names. I mean, we have some names that some people were like, did you know that was a Sisters of Mercy song name? I was like, no, but I mean, there's only so many words in the.
Well, yeah, and it's not the same song, but
yeah. But Tears, you can hear a count off at the beginning. It was actually a music student who was doing, who had to do an internship at the studio with Jeff and Jesse in the background, and we got him to go 2, 3, 4, and his voice got on that song on the album. And again, we cut that song not because John wanted to keep it, and there were a lot of fights over that too, like, artistic. I like the dark, heavy stuff that gives me the chill bumps, and Tears is it's a great song. But it was a little too poppy, I guess, for me at the time. And I worked on it some more, and I think I liked the newer version more than what we did on the third album. So there are some songs along the way. I think 85% of the songs on each album are just brand new. I mean, the first, for this album, track 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, I mean, they're all new, but then I do go back and say, can I salvage this? Should I rework this? Should I do that? And I still have probably 100 to 200 songs that I could go back to work on. And sometimes I'll go through them and I'll be like, no. And I'll write a new song instead. So,
yeah. But, Hidden View is really confronts the whole feeling of loneliness and the pandemic, and it's excellent the way you do that.
Thank you.
How is it? You've been successful and you've pulled it off despite being very frustrated, I'm sure, with not being able to tour, not being able to get together with people face to face. Because yes, the internet, this kind of thing is nice. It allows us to at least talk, but there's nothing like face to face and
right,
talking with people. So how did you do it for other band people and musicians that are out there? I think you've been successful at it. And how do you do it?
Well, this is a first for the Vita Eterna. We still, I think, while we were recording it before it came out, it was 2 years ago, so we could still do face to face, and it was except for Chrissy, who was in Chicago and couldn't make. I wanted her here. I kept saying, I'll fly you down. I'll get you in here. I really want you in the studio so I can. Not that I need to coach her, but I really wanted to. If I want a certain vocal sound or whatever, it's much harder to emulate and to translate through the phone or the internet or typing or whatever. If you say I need it softer, I need it more sultry, or I need it whatever. I like to have them in the studio to get a lot of takes and to
sure.
So VD Turner and getting Dave. When I found out Dave wanted to do the album, I had no idea. I'd only met Dave once, and Dave.
He's had some real good things to say about you.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. I think he was the only problems we had were he wasn't used to my schedule and I wasn't used. He was still on England time, and I'm a late night guy. I'm up till 6, 7 in the morning working on music and in the studio, either doing my stuff or producing other stuff or working on movies or whatever. So I just felt like, well, I can get up at 1 or 2 and we can have the whole day. And the first day is like, this ain't gonna work. So I just started getting up earlier for him, but he was a lot of fun at times too. He was, but what happened with that was I really had the album done, but because, and I don't want to really get into, there's a lot of personal issues with what happened with John Colbeck, and he's had some personal issues, and we had some very minor artistic conflicts where he wanted to do this and I didn't want to do that, but he wound up not playing on the last 2 albums, and there were some things missing, but I had all the songs done and I was almost at the point of going to mixing. And then I got these emails and calls saying, hey, Dave Fielding wants to play on the album. And I was like, you're kidding me. And I had to make a decision. Okay, do I want to stop production and I guess I heard this bloke Gaz kept saying, Dave is when I sent the tracks over, he's hearing certain things, and then at the end of the day, I just realized, what, this is, of all the people I have already played with, and on the first album we had Anna Lynn Williams from Trespassers William. We've had a lot of people along the way, and Dave Fielding, that guitar sound, and which we have our own guitar sound too. The Black Swan Lane guitar sound. But when I had to take them up on that opportunity, and when he came over, we did have limited time, but it wasn't like we're writing a whole new album. The songs were there, and he added that extra, like the song you mentioned earlier, The Prisoner, the delayed effect that, I dialed in that repetitive delay, and that really made that song. So
yes, it did.
he and then there's some other songs. I've messed around with an EBow before, but he's like the master of EBow.
Yeah,
I don't know, if you don't know what an EBow is, it's the contraption with the laser on it that you put on the string that vibrates the string, and there's a lot of EBow throughout the Chameleons.
It's a Manchester sound.
So luckily I had one here, and so he put some EBow on, and I think, I don't remember how it was. There were 11 or 12 songs. I think he was on 10 of them. He didn't do Happy, and I know he did Pure, The Prisoner, Shadow. I think the only songs he didn't do was Happy and Tears. But yeah, I mean, the opportunity was incredible to have him on that album. Now the new album, it's kind of out there, and whether it is or not, I did by myself.
Yeah, no, you did a good job.
I did all the, I think, and this fellow Gaz did a review the other day and said it was a great review, but he said, you know, missing the musicians, there must have been a drum machine or something. I was like, no, they're all live instruments. So luckily I grew up, you know, playing drums, which gave me the timing and the tempo, and then I picked up bass and guitar. I think the hardest thing for me was to do the bass, to make the bass more interesting and not just play along with the song, but actually give it that groove and that you know, the mystique of the bass of still being in the background, but doing the lead-ins and lead-outs and the guitars, to me, I have a lot of fun with, and the, you know, the dueling guitars. And I mean, there may be between the acoustics and all the electrics, sometimes there's 6, 7, 8, up to 14, 15, 16 different guitars going at the same time. Wow. To give you that. And another one of my favorite bands after the Chameleons is Kitchens of Distinction, to give you that swarm of, they do it with a lot of effects. I do it with effects and multi-instrumentation. So, but yeah, because I didn't know, you know, as everybody didn't know, and I had friends really sick with COVID. I've had friends who recovered from COVID who still can't walk 10 feet. I've had friends die of COVID. I've had, so I took it very seriously, and I have some immune disorders myself, some thyroid stuff, and now I have borderline type 2 diabetes. So I didn't want to fuck around with dying from this stuff, and I still wanted, you know, to do these songs, and it was a long, lonely process, honestly. And there were times that, you know, I did through the grapevine with Dave. I mean, you know, I wish he could have been here, but he's got health issues too, that he couldn't afford to fly over here and deal with that. And there's some other musicians that are just phenomenal, like Chris Oliver, who played with us on tour. There's other people in California who wanted to play. We had just one of the best drummers and greatest bass player, and I just didn't want to be in small quarters recording with other people, so I said I'm just going to do it myself. And some people said you should, you know, it should be a solo album, you should call it Jack Richard Sobel, and I said, my name sucks, I'm going to keep Black Swan Lane. So I decided the 9th album, I'm going to do, I did every instrument and just DIY, you know?
Sure.
Now, if things get a lot better, I mean, I thought they were getting better, and, you know,
we all did. Yeah.
If COVID, I'm fully, I don't care what you think or what other people think, or, I'm fully vaccinated and I got my booster, and, you know,
that's the only thing I'm waiting on is the booster, but I'm the same way. take
I
care
had
of yourself.
I I had to prove I'm really sick to
But
get the booster. Um, but you know, whatever you think about that stuff, it's your life, whatever.
no,
I
I
have
agree with you.
I happen to believe I've always gotten vaccinations.
Yeah.
I believe in science. I got it done. I feel somewhat protected, but I still don't want to get sick. So as soon as I feel like it's time, I'd love to play. You know, I think the last show I did was acoustic solo, not over video, but Ian McNabb was supposed to do a show in Atlanta and bailed, and I got the call to go fill in. So I did a solo acoustic thing, and it's just not my thing. I need the electric guitar, I need the band, I need the power. You know,
I wish you'd come to Seattle next year. Mark, the Chameleons are going to be with Mission UK downtown Seattle. That would be an awesome pair. I love both bands, and
yeah,
so I'm
they're
dying to
touring
see
with
both of them.
Theater of Hate, so I think that's pretty much a done deal. That I didn't get invited on that tour, so.
Too
Um,
late. Oh, okay. Well, that's well,
so
maybe even
it's Mission UK, Chameleons Vox, and Theater of Hate.
yeah.
I saw that tour pop up, and you know, we'll see if I had tickets to see Bauhaus, and that got canceled. Um, I
It's a
guess,
year. Yeah, it's a year from now.
yeah.
That's what I was going to ask you. And you were kind of hedging towards it. Um, you're obviously ready to perform again, but um, do you think you'll take the two albums, Vita Eterna and
Well,
Hide and View,
I
out
think
on the road or
yeah, I think we would do some
next
classics
year?
too. I mean, I hope so. I hope this
Yeah,
shit gets better, and I hope people. I'm tired of all the fighting and
yeah,
negativity and the hurtfulness of and the ridiculousness going on in the world. And I'm not a scientist, and I can't get into politics, and I don't want half the world to. Hey.
yeah. Those dogs are cute. Uh,
Uh,
especially the picture of this guy looking down on the new puppy. That's a cute
yeah,
picture.
the puppy I had to lock up because it would be
All over, yeah.
it would be a nightmare. But I've got two of them down here with me. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I love. I think we would do classics like, you know, we took some songs like Adeus, which is it's Portuguese for long goodbye, and I really like. I give kudos to some things are in Italian for all our Italian fans, and you know,
Oh,
French.
awesome.
We have just diehard fans. We had fans fly in for a concert in Atlanta from France and Germany, and
Wow.
so sometimes just a really great guy in Portugal. So I named a song called Adeus, and we took that, and there's actually a video on YouTube of the practice session with John Lever and Chris Oliver and Stephen Foxcroft and me and John. And John Colbeck was like, we can't do that live. It's not. And I said, I have an idea for it. So live, you know, we did Gen from the Sun and the Moon sessions, and we just rocked. We did you know, at the Troubadour and across the U.S., we really rocked them out and did slightly different versions that are on the album, which are fun. So we would do some classics like that and Twist, and but definitely songs off the last two albums. And I think, and I hate to say this, I think the new album, and I know it's fresh and new, but I can't stop listening to it. I mean, Hide
Yeah.
in View, when they're the breakdowns into the heavy parts, it's just I purposely made it addicting, and
Yes.
I really really like the new album, and I like that I got to. It's a catch 22 again because I got to make all the decisions, which is great. But then there were times while you're doing it, you're like, God, I wish I had John here. I wish I had Dave
Bounce
Fielding
some
here,
ideas off
or
of.
I wish I had, um, you know, our drummer here or whatever to, because there were some times where it's just, it was hard or it was a pain in the ass or they could do something I couldn't do. And, you know, obviously Dave and John and the rest of the guys, I normally play rhythm guitar on stage and sing, but in the studio I do it all, but they can do it better than me. Um, and there were some times when I missed having them, but at the same time, I got to decide, okay, these are the songs going on. This is what order it's in. And at the end of the day, I'm really really happy with it, and
Good.
I think I love it. So
Yeah.
the only problem we're having now is getting it to people who want it in Europe because of our postage problem here. Our post office is a catastrophe, and sending
Yes.
one CD used to be $4, then it was $6. Now sending one CD is $15.44.
Which is the cost of it, or how
So
much you're going to make from it. Yeah.
if it's in a jewel case and it's got all the lyrics in it, and then God forbid they want 2, 3, 4 CDs, it's a fortune.
Yeah.
So plus Brexit, that's a whole other deal.
Oh, yeah.
And then the taxes that they're forcing them to pay once the thing gets there. And then people are asking, well, why don't you have European distribution? And we used to, but it didn't work out and we didn't get paid, and we hit #1 on their site and then we never got paid for it. So we just decided, Wonderland Music Publishing and Eden Records, we're gonna do it ourselves, and I'm just gonna ship them and do the whole thing. And
Yeah.
but everything, the reason I didn't pursue additional distribution and vinyl and everything else, I just looked at, we had ignored things like Spotify and all that stuff for years. And 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when streaming went live on the new album, I realized, oh, well, you can have a Spotify artist page. And when I logged on, since 2015, we had almost 500,000 streams, and I was like, damn. Like I should
That's
have
the way to go.
I should have been promoting
Yeah.
streaming more than
The physical.
However, you really don't get paid very much from streaming, so that's another problem. And the music business as a whole, you really have to tour and sell merchandise at your shows. And I'm honestly, the guy who is just a genius and played with us who started with me as a teenager and was my brother and really helped with everything. And John Colbeck, he had COVID twice, and the second time it almost killed him. So
oh my gosh,
he's not going to jump on board and start touring right now either. So we're kind of just waiting until
you get to
it really seems like it's safe, and even the venues that are saying and some people just don't give a shit. They're willing to risk their lives and
I
gamble
know. Yeah.
their lives and other lives, and I think that's a little crazy as well.
Yeah. It is.
But even the
So
venues that are asking for, you know, vaccination records, people are buying those on the internet. It's just a card. It's
that's
like it's pointless.
yeah.
You know, the United States of America, you're getting a card that you're signing that anybody can fill out on and buy on eBay now for a few
Yeah.
bucks. So I'm gonna wait a little while and see, and if things don't get better, I'll write another album.
That's what I was going to ask you. What it's hard to say what's next when you just released the new album,
I
but I know
honestly,
you guys are always creative and you're always thinking of the next stage.
every album, I need a break afterward, not only to promote and not only to try and, you know, get the word out, and you know, so far all the articles, and I appreciate you writing about it, but all the, you know, the big takeover review was phenomenal. Brett from in Belgium, that was good. Anyway, we're getting some great press, and right now I'm working on additional press. I'm working on. I haven't picked up a guitar. I haven't even thought about. I haven't written any lyrics. I haven't done anything. After every album, I need a few months off to recover from listening to the same songs over and over and over.
Yeah.
I'm talking about hundreds and hundreds of times. Once you record a song, you know, if you all these people with little studios who record a song real quick and just put it out,
yeah,
that's fine and dandy. But you know what I do is, and what really John Colbeck taught me to do, because I'm pretty anxious and I'm pretty type A, and I'm not the most patient individual, but I've learned to be when it comes to music, and I've learned to I can write a song quickly, but then I want to develop it, and I want to make sure that I love it before it goes out. And if I can keep listening to it over and over and over, and while you're doing that, you're going to hear things like, oh, you know what? I think another guitar should be right there. Yeah. Or I think I should add a tambourine at the end here. I think I should add whatever. Or the drums aren't right, or this beat. I mean, you can hear a snare drum hit that's not right. Yeah. And there are people who argue, well, you don't want it too perfect, but you also don't want to put out an imperfect album these days either. So
you're always going to be thinking about it. Yeah.
I think, and that was always an argument with John and I, where he was even like way over the top on, you know, perfection. And I didn't want it that perfect. I wanted it between the two. I wanted it raw and good. And he wanted everything to line up spectacularly to the millisecond. So, which I kind of, you know, I came close to on this album. I mixed it longer than I've ever mixed an album. And that's the other thing I learned a lot about on this album is, since Jeff, and I shouldn't say who's had COVID and who hasn't, but Jeff couldn't make it over. And at the same time, I'm not sure that, and I missed him terribly as well. Since when we stopped going to Jesse James Dupree's studio where Jeff works out of, and we finally had the resources and funds to build a really nice studio here, Jeff started coming here to mix and engineer at our house. So this is the first album since album 3 that Jeff's not mixing, and I mixed the whole album. So I had to learn a lot about that as well. I was always old school I wanted it on tape. I liked recording to, even when ADATs were out, it was still on tape, and I had something physical. And now there's just so much editing and so much, it's just endless possibilities that you can do. But at the same time, I'm still old school when it comes to I'm recording everything live, and nothing is manipulated to where it's just real,
Yeah.
And
100%.
but I had to learn the art of mixing, which was never in the cards for us. We would record it, and then we would have Jeff take care of the mixing, and then we'd go to mastering. Luckily, we had the same guy master it, Don Aaron in Atlanta, who's phenomenal. And if anybody ever needs leads for, even if you're not in Atlanta, if you're not in this region, just contact me through our website at Black Swan Lane, and I can give you the lead for mastering, graphic design. Ruskin and Augusta did an outstanding job.
Mm-hmm.
The cover, we really, really lucked out on.
Yeah, I love the cover.
Lydia Vivas in Barcelona. Really, we were at like the last second of like, we're going to production and we don't have a cover. And I looked at tens of thousands of images and pictures from everywhere. I joined photography sites on Facebook. I took my own pictures. I had my wife do things she wouldn't want to do and take pictures that didn't work out. I tried everything, and a friend of mine in Connecticut gave me the lead to a couple different photographers because I explained to her what I wanted. And this is a very, it is a bit, it is dark. It is a bit about isolation. It is about control and COVID and things like that. And I have this idea, but I just can't find it. So she sent me some leads, and Lydia doesn't know this, but I saw her work and another person's work, and this person's work, they wanted real standoffish about things, and they wanted like $5,000 for the album cover. And Lydia and this man, Cesar, who's her manager, actually got back to me in a timely manner. And when I saw the arrows in the back and getting stabbed in the back it was just perfect. And I was praying, and she has just been so sweet and so nice, and I haven't gotten into Instagram. I'm on there, but I don't understand it. I don't get it. I haven't figured it out yet. It's almost like Twitter. Like I have my shit connected to it, but I'm scrolling through. I don't know how it works. I just play music. But anyway, on it, she has like 100,000 plus followers on Instagram who she tweeted out like she loves the music. She loves the album. And I'm telling her, like, I've had people email me. I've had fans email me. I've had non-fans email me, say, I saw this cover and it made me want to listen to the music, and now I'm a fan of the music. So that really worked out for us, and I'm really happy.
It is a great cover. Yeah. It sums everything up.
it wasn't free either, but
No.
it wasn't $5,000. So
Yeah.
we've worked with some really great artists on our covers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Andrea Guittardi from Italy did the last one, and
Yeah.
he did
Vita was great.
he did Vita Eterna, and he also did A Moment of Happiness, which is my other favorite album. A Moment of Happiness is just it's phenomenal to me.
Well, I'll
But
tell you, we've covered a lot of ground. Is there anything that you would like to discuss that we haven't covered?
not that I can think of. I just appreciate you, listening to the music and
Definitely.
um,
We're going to try to turn some of those.
getting the word out, and
Well, hopefully we'll have some more of these progressive rock people like me that bumped into, the Chameleons on accident, with a title that was similar. And hopefully they'll give you a try and say, hey, you know what? It's not prog, but it's not far from it. It's really good. And it's inventive, it's creative. And
so you're in when you say prog, like you're into like Rush and stuff like that, or what are you talking about?
Rush, Genesis.
Yeah.
But see, for me, I mean, Led Zeppelin did some prog. I think Traffic. I mean, a lot of people don't even associate Traffic with prog. I do. I think
I was a bus boy. You're not gonna like this story. I was a bus boy when I was a boy, and when I was a hard rock fan, and I walked up to Geddy Lee, who was at a host stand, and I asked for his autograph, and he was mean to me.
Wow.
And I hear he's this great guy now, but I don't know if I just caught him at the, I must have
2112. They were at the top of the world, maybe. And
I was a little boy working for my dad. I was a bus boy, and I must have been 11 or 12. And he gave me his autograph, but he wasn't happy about it. He told me I was bothering him.
Wow. That is sad.
But I am, I think Working Man is one of my favorite songs.
Yeah.
But I think if I had to say one last thing, I'd love to get to Europe to play. The majority of our fan base, and looking at the statistics on Apple Music and Spotify and where our sales are going right now, is Germany, France, Netherlands, UK is number one. It's America that needs to, get their act together. And
well, yeah, here it's rap and hip hop, but over in Europe, they are some of these prog bands, some of these alternative bands are selling out. They're just.
I mean, don't get me wrong. We had, even when we were touring with the Chameleons, we got out of the tour bus and people had Black Swan Lane CDs for us to sign right when we walked out. And
cool.
We had a lot of fans out there screaming Black Swan Lane. And we do have a following, but we don't have the support that we need in America that we have in other countries. And this is where you can get the CDs extremely cheaply by going to our website. We're only charging $5 to ship as many many CDs as you want. Go to our store, blackswanlane.com, stream us, listen to us, spread the word. So just
it's some great, it really is great music, people. You just got to give it a chance, listen to it, and it will pull you in.
Well, I appreciate your time and letting me ramble on.
Oh, no, it's been excellent. I mean, you told me stories I would have loved to have heard, just talking man to man. So thank you for that, especially as a Chameleons fan. It's been one hell of a night. Thank you very much for that. But no, I want to see you do well. I know you can do. I know you're already doing well.
Yeah.
But I think you can do even better, and I'm sure you will. Once
Well,
once you can get out there on the stage again, you just everyone needs that again. That
yeah.
shot in the arm.
I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Definitely. Thank you, Jack, for taking time out of your busy day to talk with us about all things Black Swan Lane for the Progressive Rock Central. I'm going to stop the recording and